How do you, how did you, yeah, how did that opportunity come about? How did you decide to even like follow through and spend time on it? And like, at what point did you know you were like, okay, this is the one?
Right. Well, I'd love to say that I knew exactly what I was doing, but I didn't. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was, I sat down one night and I looked at all the hours I was working. I was a single dad. And I'm like, I want to have some time. I want
Mm,
time and I want freedom. Time and freedom. So what's going to get me time and freedom? Time and freedom could come from having an internet business, because if I could sell stuff online, I wouldn't have to be somewhere. So that's what I reasoned. So I started selling cell phone cases. And I started selling cell phone cases because I did a quick search to find out what the number one item sold on eBay was in
yeah.
2009. And it was cell phone cases. So I said, well, everybody's got a cell phone case. That
I'd
must be.
imagine that would be a pretty saturated market, though. I remember a lot. There
Well,
were a lot.
it was, but I wasn't that smart.
Oh,
Okay. You got to factor in, I didn't know what I was
yeah,
doing.
sure.
When you factor that, the margins were also incredibly small too. But once
Okay.
again, I didn't know what I was doing. So I started buying cell phone cases by the hundreds. And they only fit one kind of phone. Sorry, I'm
Uh,
shaking that desk. They only fit one kind of phone. So I would have to buy more cell phone cases by the hundreds, because there really wasn't a drop shipping thing back then. And I would sell a few of them, and then I would put the remainder in my walk-in closet. And then I would get some more because the phones had changed. And then I put the remainder in my walk-in closet. And pretty soon I couldn't walk into the walk-in closet because it was full of all these cell phone cases. And I reasoned that this was not the product for me because I was putting stuff in envelopes and packaging late at night, and I was making 50 cents or $1 for each package.
uh,
So I started looking around a little bit, and I was like, well, camping goods look good. So I started buying camping supplies and little knives and gadgets and compasses and stoves and all that.
it was,
I
and wait,
started,
so sorry. You say camping goods look good. Like, was there like some like complex analysis that went into this? Like, I know there's like software programs that people pay thousands of dollars a year for, like Helium 6 and all this stuff. Like, were you using some fancy ass analysis? I mean, you have a finance background. Like, how deep did you go into like drill down into, like, you're like, camping goods are good? What led to that decision? Was it some fancy spreadsheets, or what did you do to figure that out?
once again, I'd like to say I'm intelligent, but I'm not. And I'll be really honest with you. When I started my business, I didn't know how to send emails very well. When I saw that there was a reply button one day, I'm like, holy crap, I don't have to rewrite this whole email. I was like floored. I'm like, I've discovered something. There's a reply button. I didn't know that existed. On top of that, I can't type. And when I say I can't type, I mean, to this day, I cannot type. So as far as camping goods, I would look and find some items that had sold a bunch on eBay, and I'm like, I'll go buy that item then. I did no kind of in-depth research. I didn't know how to do any of
What?
that.
Wait, what? So you
Yeah,
just
that
were
was,
like, oh, there's a bunch of reviews or something?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And a lot of those are sold, and people seem to like it. And then I'd try to find who manufactured it, and I would just buy some of that.
so you
I,
went to school for finance, but there was no fancy spreadsheets or anything. It was just,
I didn't
hey,
know how to
those
do
look like,
spreadsheets.
it looks like those are selling.
Right,
Let me try it out. Okay,
right.
cool,
So,
cool, cool.
but what happened with that was, since I was selling that, I started a website to the side, which I'd never done that before, and I called it Survivalcave.
Okay.
And I call it Survivalcave because I just thought survival in a cave. I just made it up one night.
Yeah,
I
it
had a
sounds
picture of
cool.
a cave on there. I don't think we have the cave anymore. And I put all my products on there too. And that led
Hmm.
into a survival food company contacted me one day, and they said, hey, we've got this survival food, these freeze-dried foods, if you'd like to sell them. And I was like, sure. And there were these freeze-dried food buckets. And I would sell one on eBay. And back then, they weren't so picky about how quick you shipped. So I would get the money, and then I would take the money and I would buy one of those buckets, and I'd have it sent to my house. And then I'd take off their label and I'd put on the other label, and then I could ship it out. And that was how I handled my inventory. I did this in the garage. Um, and it was ridiculous. But after a while, I started doing pretty good, and I did $4,000 in a month, and I was like, wow. And then I did 8,000,
Wow.
and then I did 50,000, and then one month I'm at my
Four,
job.
eight,
Yeah,
50.
yeah, and then I'm at my job one day, and I looked at my phone, and I'd done $80,000 that month in this survival food. And I was not really selling much of the other stuff at this point. And I went into my boss and I quit. I just quit. I said, I'm making more money than you. And I got a little tiny warehouse and I sat down and I had all these orders, and all of a sudden they weren't shipping the orders. And I was like, wait a second, because I had set up a drop shipping with them by this time where they would actually send it out to the customer. So they said, yeah, we're going to be about a week behind. And eBay didn't like that. And then they were like, well, we're going to be 3 weeks behind. eBay really didn't like that. And then they said it may be about 6 weeks before we can ship your orders.
What?
Well, guess what eBay did? So I'm going to like gun shows to sell these products too. That I did that on the weekends. I worked all week on the business. On the weekends, I would go to gun shows and try to sell it. And as I'm pulling out of the driveway one day, going to a gun show, I looked down, I had over 600 listings on eBay. They were all gone. Every listing was gone. I was like, well, what happened? And then I went
after, this is a little bit after you quit your job because
this is like 2 months after. This is like 2 months after. Whoa. So then I went to check my bank account and I was missing over $20,000. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, I contacted, and you know, PayPal is hooked into eBay. So what had happened was, since I wasn't shipping out on time, eBay shut down all of my listings. I had no listings now. PayPal said that since I wasn't delivering them, they needed to hold reserves. So they took $20,000 out of my account. And to me at the time, that was a lot of money. And I just quit my job. I had no other income. Whoa. So after the gun show, I came back and I sat in my little warehouse, and I think it was about 650 square feet at the time. And I just looked around. I'm like, well, I got some choices here. I can either go back to the job, you know, or I can try to figure this out. And my idea of figuring it out was, what if I had my own survival food? What if I didn't have to depend on another company? So we came up with recipes. I found a company to manufacture. We started selling freeze-dried foods. And after a few months of that, I did pretty well after a while. And I called website after website to get them to sell my foods because nobody was coming to my website. And I didn't get that at all. And by the way, the name of the site, I had one site called Survivalcave. So guess what I called the new site? Survivalcave Food.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from, because I didn't know how to come up with anything. I didn't know anything about SEO or any of that. And
folks, that's his main website now, and that's your thing. That's what I know you as, Mr. Survival.
Yeah. So that went on pretty well, and then people started saying, well, we don't have any protein. You have all these vegetarian meals and we want protein. And I looked into freeze-dried meat and it was terrible. I mean, really bad. It was like crumbles of stuff. You'd end up with a bowl full of mush. And I figured out a process to can meat that would last a long, long time. And we started our canned meat line. We started 14.5 ounce and 28 ounce. And I remember the first pallet of meat I made, oh gosh, it was thousands of dollars. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to invest thousands of dollars for this pallet of meat. And I don't even know if it's going to sell. And it did sell. And it sold a big way and it took off. We're on thousands of sites now, from Walmart to Amazon to Sportsman's Guide to pretty much every survival site that you look at right now, and you look for Survivalcave food, it'll be there. And we actually will ship out most of those for those customers. Probably 90-95% of our business is other sites selling our product at this point. And we've had $100,000 days, you know, where we're selling, especially during the pandemic. We're just selling a lot. I'll put it that way. But you know, as I tell people, they say, how did you get involved in that? And I said, I sold cell phone cases. There was a little glitch in between there, but I never intended to sell a canned meat. I mean, never. That was not my goal. And I think that is something that people need to hear, because they think I need to find this one product and this is where I'm going to make my money. No, you need to start and see where it takes you. Just start. You know, now I do courses and all that stuff, and I have coaching and I have inner circles and all that. But you need to start. That's because I sold a cell phone case, though. That's why. And I failed at it, but it didn't matter. It's irrelevant. You know, you don't know where it's going to take you. You know, I don't, you know.
Dude, that is, first off, I mean, guys, type in round of applause in the comments area. If that, I mean, first off, that's an amazing story, JR. And thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, that's, the fact that you didn't even know where the reply button was on an email is just so ridiculous. But I think, I mean, it's an amazing journey, and there's I mean, you persevered through a lot of challenges to get there, both, you know, relationships and also, you know, like PayPal account and, you know, eBay shutdown and all this, all the horrible, you know, a lot of horrible things that would make a lot of people tuck and run, tuck tail. I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, so one thing I find interesting is, yeah, you were doing sales and stuff, and I noticed that you said a lot of people think you just list a product up on a website and you just kind of like cross your fingers and you like hope and you pray that, you know, it's going to sell. Okay, the eBay or the Amazon algorithm is just going to be like, I love you, you know, here, let me give you customers and give you money. But you went out and you it sounds like you did, like, you reached out to people and you're getting people to sell, you know, to sell your products on their websites, and it's not even Amazon or eBay. So and also it sounds like you were going to like gun shows and you were out there, you know, whatever you could do to get that to breathe life into that business you were doing. So tell me a little bit about, I mean, I'm really interested about the trade shows and what sounds like you were selling, like the B2B or wholesaling. Tell me a little bit about those two things, because again, that's awesome. That's hustle. That's hustle.
Came out of mistakes. And the mistake was, I was told that if you built a website and you put a product on it, people would come buy it. So I built Survivalcave Food. I didn't build it. I hired somebody because I didn't know how to do that either. And the site went live. And I ran to my office and I sat down and I was like, oh boy, you know, I'm gonna make some money. And I looked and I looked and I looked and nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. I mean, literally nothing. And then somebody said, well, you need SEO. I said, what the heck's that? And they said, well, you need to optimize it so it comes up, you know, in the search results. I'm like, great, I'll do that. And I did that, and still no results. I waited a day or two and no results.
How much did you spend on the SEO? And all that costs money, you know? It's like,
oh yeah, no, I was spending like, I think $1,500 a month, and I did that for like 2 or 3 months, and then nothing.
How much did the website cost you?
Oh gosh, I didn't remember back then. Probably a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, they're not cheap. Yeah.
And you know, then I started just searching survival foods, survival products. I kept seeing all these other sites that had a tremendous amount of traffic. Because I found a program where you could check traffic. Like, man, if I had the traffic they did, and one day a light bulb went off. I'm like, what if I did have their traffic? In other words, what if my product was on their site? I said, well, I'm just going to call them up and tell them to put my product on their site, and I'm going to get rich. So I called and I called and I called. Nobody had ever heard of me. They're like, I'm not putting your product on my site. And I know over probably 200 phone calls a day. And I send out probably as many emails as that a day. And then I finally found one guy in New York who was going to make a website, and he was considering putting my food on his site. So I made a little yellow folder and I put all of his information in it. I put it into a file cabinet, and he never did start the site, by the way, but I kept that process. And finally I got a couple sites. And once I got a couple sites, I would send out an email and say, hey, you ought to put it on your site because this site and this site has my food. You can check it out. And then I would send out that email again once I got a few more, and I'm like, hey, this site has my food. You ought to check it out. And I started building this book of business, but I still had that front folder of the guy who never did build his website.
Whoa.
But also, not every site that I put it on did well. You know, some sites would sell $500 a month. Some would sell none. Some would sell 20,000. You know, so the other thing was I tried to treat everybody equal. So if somebody was doing $500 worth of business with me a month, they didn't get treated any worse than somebody who was doing $50,000 a month. Everybody was equal to me. Everybody paid the same price. That was another key. If it was a big vendor, I didn't let them say, well, hey, we're going to pay you a whole lot less than everybody else. No, the little guys are what really built my business. The sites that were selling $1,000 to $1,500 a month, those are the sites that built my business. Now, if you Google it, Survivalcave Food, which you guys can do, you'll see thousands and thousands of sites with my products on it. But I took care of them. And then the last thing I would tell you to do, if you ever decide to do something like this, don't undercut people who've made your business for you. If you go to my site, it's the most expensive site on the internet to buy my product. I sell it there every day. But if one of these websites sends out an email and says, buy my product, and they see the name on it and they Google it, they can't go to my site and buy it cheaper. right? So I protect them with MAP pricing, okay? And in that way, I kept all those vendors. And I had Costco approach me about selling to them and selling a whole lot cheaper. And then I thought, you know what? No, because these little guys are what made my business, and they wanted, you know, special pricing and special packaging. And then if they had to move it from one store to the other, you had to pay transportation. And then if it didn't sell, you were going to pay floor space. And I was like, no. Right now, these guys are doing fine for me, and I'm just going to keep them and keep moving forward. And that's really worked out well for me. Stay loyal to people. You know, stay loyal to somebody who helps you. That one big thing I learned out of that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And that's what I love that, because it's like that. It's like this. I feel like very sort of common archetype of an entrepreneur's story is you come up against an obstacle that seems insurmountable. You did the website, you did the SEO, you built your own product, you set up the merchant processing and all this other fun stuff that goes on in the background, and it's like nothing's selling, and you've done everything and you don't know what to do, and then it's like, hey, like, I'm just gonna ask these guys.
Right.
But 200 calls a day, I mean, you really worked it. It's not like you messaged 5 people and you're like, hey,
well, in all fairness, they would hang up pretty fast. So you could get a lot of calls in.
But that's perseverance. That's resilience. Now, what about the trade show? I mean, so it sounds like the partners have been an explosive force for your business. I love that. But what about the the gun shows, and why were you doing those? I mean,
well, you know, it's funny. I could take a bunch of my product to these gun shows, and we could do $2,000 to $10,000 a day in sales at these gun shows.
What? Well, that's a. I'll go to Fresno. I'll go to Fresno the more.
So I had an older Jeep, and I would rent a U-Haul.
Okay.
And I would put it in the back of the U-Haul, and I would drive around to, you know, these camping shows, gun shows. Gun show people were really great for us. And they would, and we, you know, we tried to fix all of the objections before they had them. And some of the objections, I knew the objections. The objections was, it's not going to taste good. It's too heavy. I'll come back and get it later. All these different objections. Okay. So when somebody would approach our booth, we had crock pots set up, and everything was heated. And it was these canned meats in there, and I would have a little tasting cup, and I would hand it to them. I would say, here, taste this while I tell you something. I didn't ask them if they wanted to taste it. I would say, here, taste this.
Oh, that is a powerful present. Oh,
and they would taste it, and they would go, oh my God, this is really good. What is this? I said, you're not going to believe it, but it's actually survival food. And then I would go into my spiel about what survival food was. All my displays were very tall, so that when they, you know, most gun shows, everything's these dark tablecloths, and people have stuff laid down. They're walking down looking like this. They don't even make eye contact. So I went under the Walmart way of displaying stuff. If you pile it high, they have to stop. If you ever notice, you go into Walmart, everything's real tall, because you can't look up and keep walking forward. You'll fall down. You'll lose your balance. So all my displays were very tall. They were very colorful. They stood out from the whole room, because everything else was black and, you know, army green, and mine was burgundy and white. And you'd see all my stuff, and it was all bright. And I would tell them about the product, and I would say, and if you're thinking about getting this, what you want to do is get it now, and I can put your name on it, because I know you want to walk around the gun show, and that way you'll have it, because we always sell out. And if you're thinking it's going to be heavy to carry to your car, we have a hand truck here, and we'll help you with that too. So what I would do is wipe out all the objections, and I'd get the sales, and many days we would sell out everything in the booth, everything I brought. But it was all my sales skills from the automotive industry that helped me do that. Because I knew objections had to be brought up, not ignored. You know, you can't ignore objections. You got to bring them up.
I mean, dude, that first off, like, masterful objection handling. If I do say so myself, survival food, you think this freeze-dried kind of like astronaut type of stuff. I mean, you're cooking it right there. And I'm just thinking at a conference, I'm like, you know, I get hungry, you know, you're walking around, there's like hundreds of booths, and, you know, everybody wants to talk to you forever, and you're like, there's no food, right? Like, maybe there's like a bar or something, but like, you're like, I want to eat something. Like, that is really cool. I love the hand cart and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious how your prior experience informed that. And $2, $3, $4,000 a day from figuring out like niche. I mean,
Yeah, we also had the
that's
family dynamics sample. And what that meant was whatever was in front of you, you had to look at the family dynamics. If you had a husband and wife and children, the one objection you were going to have is the kids won't eat it. So guess who we gave the sample to first? Not the husband, not the wife, the kids. And if the kids went, oh my God, this is good, guess who I had just sold?
yeah,
Parents. Now,
the
if they
sales
didn't
happen.
have kids and it was a husband and wife, who buys groceries? The wife.
Right.
Guess who got the sample first? The man's always left out. And I would say, I want you to try this, make sure you like it first. We'll worry about him later.
Wow.
And then the woman had power, you know, which she does. Well, I didn't give it to her. I just admitted I knew it, you know?
Yeah.
If I gave it to him first and he liked it, she's like, no, I'm not trying that. I don't want
Yeah.
So it was the children, wife, and then the husband. And if you did it that way, we closed 90% of the people that would taste it. Yeah.
Wow.
And
I mean, that's awesome. And it's like, it goes to show, it's funny. I've actually met multiple people who started their business or like just went to like county fairs and just had some like thing they were selling at like, and they would just travel around to county fairs and just, I mean, just like the most basic form of business, setting up a booth at a fair or a trade show or a market or some, in front of a grocery store. It's funny how you can actually start a business and get good traction without even complicating anything. Just I think that's really awesome. And I imagine, during the period where it was like, you're like, I'm trying to get SEO to happen, or like nobody's coming to the website. Yeah. Like going to a trade show and getting a quick, a cool like $3,000 to $4,000 is,
right.
I mean, just really helped through the hard times, because now you're like, you know what? There's a gun show over in Arizona. I don't want to drive over to Arizona this weekend, but you know what? To keep the business going, I'll make the trip, and I know I can always do that.
Yeah, and then we got into survival shows and all that. But I mean, if I didn't have that, if I hadn't done that, I couldn't have continued on and gotten to the point we are now.
That is really, really cool. Well, I think I'm going to wrap things up. I want to encourage everyone to check out, JR's training. JR has an amazing training. He started like giving back to people and really teaching people how to start internet businesses too. But what I really like is that you're like normal. You're like a normal, cool dude. You have and by the way, JR has way more stories than what he's even letting on here. I mean, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. But I don't know, man. I mean, thank you for being on. Link is in the description. Link is somewhere around wherever. But JR, I wanted to first off thank you very much for being on. You're like an incredibly humble, down to earth, family-oriented, hardworking person, and I really respect and admire that. And also, I wanted to just kind of open the space for anything, maybe you can tell folks a little bit about how you've been mentoring people to help them start internet businesses as well. And also just, I'll give you some space to talk about, any other messages that you would like to share with folks here.
Sure. Yeah. One thing I would tell you is when I started in 2009, I wanted the quick fix. I just wanted to go buy a course, learn how to do it, make money. So there were courses out there. There were quite a few of them at the time. And I don't know if you remember this or not, John, but most of them were BS. The people selling the courses had never sold any products. Mm-hmm. They're like, I got this course to teach you how to sell products online. And I said, what products did you sell? And they're like, well, I don't sell products. I sell courses. I'm like, well, how do I know the courses be good then? So I had to kind of figure it out and lose a lot of money. There are some great courses out there, of which you have some too. But the courses I do are only based on things that we've accomplished. So I have Facebook ads courses, I have drop shipping courses, I have e-commerce courses, I have inner circles where I teach people. These are all based on things that we've accomplished, and we can show you, hey, this is the results we've got. This is how we got those results. And that's pretty much my training. My channel is J.R. Fisher Training. That's free. We're approaching 700 videos. But right now, I will tell you, I didn't really concentrate on it until this year, even though I've had it for 5 years. I didn't know how to use YouTube. I didn't do it right. You know, for years I did it wrong. And then I was sporadic. I would do a few videos and then not do them. Now I do 5 videos a week, every single week. Been doing that since the pandemic started. And that, guess what? We're getting results now. It's funny how that works. Yeah, you're welcome to go there. It's free. Like you said, there'll be a link in the description. You can go there and check out some of those videos. I love to answer questions. I mean, I really get off.
And why'd you get into training? Also talk about that. Like, why'd you start training people? On the internet. I mean, you obviously have experience doing so, but yeah, I'd love.
I had somebody ask me one day how to do something online, how to make some money or something. This is a few years ago. Yeah. And I told them how to do it. And then I told more people, then more people started asking. And somebody pulled me aside and said, you should charge. So, because I was doing a lot of free stuff, and I'm still doing free stuff. And you can still get that on my YouTube channel. But for the people who want to read real detailed step-by-step, what do I do type thing, I came up with courses that are affordable for the regular guy. They don't have to, go to college and spend 40 or 50 grand to learn how to do something. And they can actually get results, which is craziness because college does not promise that. So that's basically why I did it, out of people just asking for it. I could just rely on the Survivalcave food business, really. But I like doing it. It's fun. I mean, it's cool. And John, because when you do have a student,
I love teaching. I love seeing people who end up getting it and their lives get changed. I mean, you're like, being a teacher is, I feel, one of the most powerful ways to impact the world. Actually, it's really fun.
Yeah, you make a positive impact, and you let somebody else quit their job. That's amazing, to give them that freedom, because most people, and people listening maybe fall in that category, they think they're going to get an education and go get a job and work for somebody and then retire on half of what they were making and die. And that's it. That's the whole plan, just to die. What if you could do what you wanted in between time? What if, think about that. What if you could live where you want and drive what you want and wear what you want and eat what you want? How would that look? Yeah. How happy would you be? I mean, we're both pretty happy guys because we're doing what we want,
Cool. Well, thank you once again, J.R. Fisher, for being on, folks. I'll include all the links below to connect with him. This has been an awesome session, bro. I love this. I mean, man, how you got to where you are today is an awesome journey, and it's a unique one, and I love it. So thanks again, man. Have a good one.
Thank you, John. See you later.
See you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell right there so you can be notified every time I do a new video. Also, click on one of those videos there. Keep watching on my channel.